Mate, let's just start with that. How can the same broadcast people and fans who told me Bjergsen just 1v9 the LCS playoffs then go, but he was playing support of champions? Well, why would he be doing that if he was 1v9ing? Why the fuck would you play Zilean against Korean mid laners who also play Zilean if you're trying to 1v9? That makes zero sense. Literally, it makes Zilean zero sense. None at all. So let's just throw that out the window, because that only makes sense as an excuse if Bjergsen is a competent teammate and understands that Broken Blade or Doublelift, one of these guys is going to carry the game. So either we acknowledge that, in which case he was wrong, so he still fucked up the game. But if we acknowledge, right, what I actually think, which is that he really thought these were his best picks. I made this point to people in the LCS playoffs. The only games in all those series he had to win through the lower bracket of the LCS playoffs that Bjergsen won that weren't on TF and Zilean were just Syndra picks, which is literally his signature champion and was a meta champion. He wasn't displaying a champion ocean, guys. I know you guys wanted it to be that he's such a genius, he figured out the only champions people could. No, it's the other way around. Those are the only champions he can play. He has not shown he can play any other champions. And the fact that you're picking Zilean into a fucking Korean Zilean player tells me you are desperate as fuck. This is after a boot camp, remember. This isn't like day one of arriving in Korea. This is after all your preparation, after you've prepared. This is like a million drafts are supposed to be on a whiteboard somewhere, and this is supposed to be one that they were navigating towards. They wanted them. This is why the Bjergsen angle doesn't work. And you know what? I'll just point this out as a disclaimer, even though idiots will never care. I do defend Bjergsen at many of the other tournaments. Like, I've never been one who went too far, like, oh, he's just doing great and it's the rest of TSM like Doublelift that suck. I think he's been underwhelming at a lot of Worlds, but the difference in the past was this, Dom. If he was underwhelming at a past Worlds, it's like he played all right, everyone else played bad, and he just never carried the games, right? The problem I have at this Worlds was he played, I actually thought, like, as bad as a bunch of them, and he just actually gets away with it because he's got this established narrative that he always carries. It's never Bjergsen's fault. Like, you know what? The other Gen G game is the one I wanted to bring up, dude. Because here's a perfect example where I'm going to use what LS said, but against him. So here's the irony. The stat line of Bjergsen's second game against Gen G sounds like he had a great game. He was like 7-2-5 on Lucian or something, right? Sounds awesome. What's that for? And he's playing Lucian. He's got a great score line, and they narrowly lost the game. Sounds like he must have carried. Go back and watch that moment, which just shows you what scum TSM fans are. Because everything about that thrown Baron, where they have the Baron to like that much and they just back off and let it get taken, everything, right, was about Spicker. Everyone was like, look, oh, idiot, he did the fucking smite.
Man, Doublelift triggered me so hard there.
No, guys, it was nothing to do with Spicker. Nobody on his team was hitting the Baron. Not a single player. And are you ready for the ultimate one of all? Bjergsen had fucking Flash and I think his ultimate. And he doesn't even use it in the fight or on the fucking Baron. Is this a joke? Like, dude, you are the star player of this team. In that game, you even have a very strong mid pick. You're just not using it. Like, what's great about this game is that game also featured the other moment that just showed what TSM was about this Worlds, where Spicker landed one of the best Lilia ults you are going to see in this whole tournament. Dude, if you can't win a 5v5 when the other 5 can't move or attack you, just go home immediately. Just close down the computer, get your peripherals, and just head home. Because they can't even press fucking buttons. What is this? Like, what is it? Go on then, TSM fans. Explain to me what genius move Bjergsen did while his opponents were immobilized and could have taken...
Yeah, you have to do suicide there if you're Bjergsen.
I mean, like, give me a break. Like, guys, I'm with you. He was the best player in the LCS playoffs. In the past, sometimes he has had to 1v9. I even agree on past shows. Sometimes I actually think he was forced into being a supportive player. Like some of the picks he did this year looked like he was just trying to help other people. But this Worlds was definitely not like an acceptable performance. And it isn't like the guy's a rookie. If we talk about Larson, right, we can talk about the fact it's his first Worlds. He's been in the LCS for like, what, a year and a half? Like, dude, Bjergsen was playing in like, what is this, like his 5th or 6th Worlds or something. Like, dude, this doesn't cut the mustard. Like, I'm not saying he's a shit player and should be cut. Like, that's all like fucking sports talk radio stuff. But like, this is mad underwhelming. And I don't want to hear TSM fans just blaming Spicket and Doublelift. Like, well, they get their share of the blame, but Bjergsen has to be in this group as well. We can't let him skate now, guys.
Yeah, no, I think he had a bad Worlds. I mean, the one Baron situation, actually, I wanted to talk about Doublelift because I think that like Bjergsen, I think underperformed for what I was expecting. I think Doublelift played so bad at this Worlds. Like,
it was pretty terrible show.
So that Baron, like, sure, you can like the whole team should have played it better, right? Like it was a clusterfuck, right?
They should
Like
have just committed. Let's be real. And that's
sure,
what TSM
sure,
never
but
did
somebody
at this
can take the
Worlds,
Baron,
right?
dude. Imagine being the jungler in that situation. I'm looking at it from a jungle perspective. Imagine you call a Baron, right? Somebody's dead, you call a Baron, and you see your fucking AD carry go and do the Wraith camp. It's so like lackadaisical. It's like, oh, let me just farm these Wraiths, and because he does the Wraith camp, he then instead of just walking to Baron with the rest of his team, he has to walk all the way around the backside of Baron. By the time he gets there, the enemy team is contesting. Then they do like a half turn where Spica's like the only one with a brain who's like, hey, Baron's at 4K, they got no jungler, kill this shit, kill this fucking Baron. And then the whole team turns, half turns, and then he has to smite for HP, so he doesn't even have a smite for the fucking Baron. And then when like the call is clearly, hey guys, I don't have fucking Baron, like I don't have smite, we can't actually like secure this Baron, like hit the fucking Baron. They just leave it and he's auto attacking it with like Lilia and some shit. It's 1 HP, and they ended up like just losing the Baron there. Like to me, it was just so disgusting. It's like, how is that not a point of urgency for you, where you're like, hey,
also, mate,
we gotta fucking kill the Baron.
Junglers as TSM fans for all these years. Then you get one who not only, I agree with you, mate. I thought overall, and you consider his team, he played all right at Worlds. His first fucking Worlds. The guy wasn't even a pro until this split.
He performed the best.
Yeah,
he performed the best.
Spica did well.
I was actually fairly impressed. If I just look at the end of the LCS playoffs and Worlds, he actually might have a future in TSM. I thought before they have to replace him no matter what. But I will say this. You can't have years where you blame the jungler, and then the jungler makes a call like you're saying, because obviously he was telling them to do it and finish the Baron Dom. It's just obvious.
He's the only one hitting it. He's the only one still hitting it.
They'll just leave him out, hang him out to dry. That is disgraceful. Like, that's not even a team at that point in time. You're just going to fucking bail on the guy.
It's so triggering. It's so triggering
Give
to
me a
watch.
break.
It's so triggering to watch.
Oh, it's very strange. Like I expected, like I thought LGD and TSM would be similar in terms of how, like the approach to the game would be. Because Shie, I thought, you know, in looking at how Bjergsen came into the tournament, now everyone spoke about him, how he performed in the LCS. Shie managed to do what I expected Bjergsen to do. Shie against LGD, like single-handedly, just controlled that game and won that game. And I know, just to play devil's advocate, that the current mid meta isn't too exciting for mid laners because at this tournament we have like Chovy, Showmaker, BDD, Caps, and even these guys aren't doing anything really spectacular. This just isn't the meta for mid laners to be like that superstar right now. It's all about the jungle. But I think the issue in TSM, it's beyond pointing to just players, because there is just no soul, no identity, no idea in terms of, no vigor or stamina in terms of wanting to win the game. And I think that was evident as the play progressed, because finally that Lucian game, it looked like they had some life in them, and then everything, like all that hope was just shattered. And I think the saddest part is, if you look at FlyQuest and Team Liquid, these are two teams that actually made changes. They progressed throughout their bootcamp. They actually learned some of the ideas and added to it. Like I was watching LCS.
If they were in that same group, right? If they'd have had TSM's group, I would have liked to have seen one of those two teams.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think odds are probably they wouldn't get through anyway, because I think Genji and Fnatic, but probably not 0-6. I think just the approach to level 1 is something that they adapted. The involvement of support, they added layers to it. Igna was playing well. JJ was playing fantastic. You could see obvious growth and what these teams took away from the bootcamp. With TSM, I saw nothing. I just saw the same exact team, which everyone kind of predicted that, in all honesty, that these things would be, attacked and this would be a problem. And you should be able to see this from inside too.
Yeah, I definitely think you should be able to see it from inside. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you have such like a defined style that ends up getting you to the World Championship, it's probably extremely hard for them to ditch it. Because if they played normal, like when they played drafts that were more standardized, they didn't have an insane win rate in NA. Like a lot of the games that they ended up winning were on the Zillion, we're on Speakers in Italy, those types of picks. We're on the Blind Rakan, like
Jungle Shed and shit that no one was playing at the time. Yeah, they were all gimmicks.
Yeah, like they had a bunch. So when you take that away, they're just not that good of a team. So then, like when they get there, and it's like, okay, like can they actually even adapt? Like I don't know if they can actually just play like standard. Oh, let's just play like Prio mid will play whatever to get Prio mid, Syndra, Orianna, etc., Lucian, whatever, and then we just play that with the Renekton Nidalee. Can they snowball through top like the other teams? Because the other teams have that down to fucking like science. Like you watch Canyon play with like Nidalee around a top lane like Camille or Renekton or anything like that. He understands like, okay, I gank now, okay, take Herald, dive, we like 3-man him if we need to. Like they just understand the situation, place the Herald, get your 2k gold lead. It just looks so like practice. Whereas TSM, when they had situations like this in NA, there would be all these times where they would just randomly throw, right? They would start Rift Herald 4v5, or they'd pull too many people to the Rift Herald and they'd lose plates. Like, it just doesn't seem like they had it down to science like the other team. So I don't even know if they would have been good enough to adapt to that style and actually be able to win, because at least what other teams were playing were more standardized in NA. Like, when you look at Jensen's champion pool, Power of Evil's champion pool, even though there are some things missing, obviously neither of them, I don't think, played Lucian mid, which is a huge thing for NA. No one was playing Lucian mid. It was being played everywhere else in the world, and no one here played it. And then you get to an international tournament where it's like a must ban for most teams, and you don't have it worked out to like play all the AP junglers with the Lucian and everything. You end up just at a disadvantage from it. But for me, when I look at it, at least the other teams had like the same ideas around champion pool. Like it felt like this was when they started realizing that Zilean was just a shit pick. Like it took them to this world championship where they're down 50 CS in lane one of the times, and the second time he's playing Zilean into Orianna, GA just like claps his ass level 4, just solo kills his ass, just get the fuck out of my screen. Like that's when it feels like they were just like, oh shit, Zilean is fucking bad. Like we can't play this shit anymore. So I just feel like it was just too late when they ended up catching on to like, you know, all the concepts that I guess other people knew. I feel like they probably had the confidence to think, hey, Bjergsen can play this Zilean to anyone, you know, like he'll always come out of lane evenly and be useful.
I was actually, you know, considering how TSM won the playoffs, I always had this question in the back of my mind if, you know, like the best of fives, all of them that they won against FlyQuest or Team Liquid, those are best of fives that could have ended very differently on a different day.
One game apart.
Super close.
Yep.
And I think we've seen time and time again that winning LCS really doesn't translate at all to the World Championship. And this is so indicative in past World Championships. Like what it takes to win LCS is just so different to remotely be good. I think it's always reflected in like Cloud9's performances at the World Championship when they've done well, whenever Team Liquid has gone there, and they keep doing the same as they do regionally, and it just doesn't translate as well. And I guess it was written in the sand somewhat that this would be the case too with TSM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that people had hope because there were games where they at least did have like a somewhat aggressive playstyle. Like they were at least incorporating some of the early aggression into their gameplay. Nidalee, Renekton, things like that they were able to win a lot of games on. So people had hope because they look like the most active NA team, whereas like old TL, if you remember how they were in 2019, 2018, they looked like they were just efficient at beating bad teams, where they would essentially just play consistently.
It was a precise team.
Yeah, they would just play consistently throughout the whole game, and then boom, like one thing, what would happen, the enemy team would make one mistake, they'd capitalize, have a lead, they'd never throw the lead for the rest of the game. So at least people had hope for NA because they came in with like a more aggressive style, I guess. But I just think that the picks like just ended up really screwing them over. Like they just didn't actually have the the champion pools to go against some of these other players.